Of course there's bad blood. There should be. You trying to get our best player. So I get that. But it would be a mistake to just absolutely rule out the Lakers under any circumstances. Number one, by dealing with the Lakers, it gives you more leverage with other teams.
Yes.
All right?
No, you need the Lakers to come correct.
Right, exactly. So, 100%. And at the end of the day, no general manager wants to send a star player within their conference, okay? Everybody's going to try to send them to the other conference. But at the end of the day, you have got to make the best deal for your team. And if the Lakers deal is so much better, like if Boston doesn't offer up a lot of their young players because they don't think AD will stay, if the Knicks can't maybe get a third team involved, or if you're not that high on R.J. Barrett, then at the end of the day, you may have to deal with the Lakers. And of course, Anthony Davis has some leverage in this as well. Not 100%, but he's got leverage. There's only two teams I know of that he will tell I'll stay long term.
Yes.
New York Knicks and Los Angeles Lakers. Now, I think of the three teams, you throw Boston in there, that who could make the best offer? Boston, I think, could make the best offer.
But I don't think they will make the best offer because the best offer involves Jason Tatum.
Right.
You would agree
I think Danny Ainge would be crazy, but Danny Ainge has taken some risk before.
It was fair enough. But so to me, we're lucky in this regard. David Griffin was in media for a full year before he took this job. And before he was the Pelicans GM, he was asked as a media member, as a former GM, if you were running the Pelicans, what would you want for Anthony Davis? So we know what he said, at least in that seat. He would want an elite draft pick, which is, call it, top 5 draft pick. He would want a player, what I call a blue chip player, what he called a blue chip player, a guy with all-star potential and an established veteran. So we can go down the list of teams that could provide all of those assets to him. For Boston, what's tough is the best pick they have is the 14th pick. Now they have the
this year,
but the Memphis pick. Next year's top 6 protected. The year after that is unprotected. So it would either be the 7th or worst pick next year from Memphis or unprotected the following year. But Boston, to me, does not get in the game without Jason Tatum, because the other players are Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown they'd be offering. So if they're not going to offer Tatum, and everything we've heard out of Boston is if Kyrie is not staying, they are not offering Jason Tatum, then you have the Bulls, who could make a very credible offer.
They're not going to get any like guarantee that he stay long term.
Which is why you would think, will the Bulls really offer Wendell Carter? Will they give up their best options when it could just be on a one-year rental? So now we come back to the Knicks and the Lakers. And to me, this is a question of how much do you love R.J. Barrett?
Right.
If you love R.J. Barrett, if you think R.J. Barrett is that much better than whomever is going to go fourth, then you make the deal with the Knicks. If you just think he's somewhat better than whatever player is going to go fourth, the players the Lakers can offer are better, one for one, player for player, than the players the Knicks can offer.
The thing you're leaving out, though, is a 3-team deal. Like, the Knicks would probably have to go get a third team involved to send a better player to New Orleans.
Because you're looking at the Knicks have Kevin Knox, Dennis Smith Jr., Mitchell Robinson. The Lakers have Brandon Ingram, blood clots and all, Lonzo Ball, Kyle Kuzma. All of those guys are better than their contemporary in the other column. And I agree, to circle back to your first point, I agree you have to make the best deal. I think ties can go to the East, but I think that if you're building around Zion, you're not going to contend for a championship the next couple of years anyway. You have to be most concerned about what the best deal is.
But as you mentioned earlier, did Popovich make the best deal for Kawhi, or did he just want Kawhi out of the conference?
It's hard to believe there wasn't a better deal out there for Kawhi. When you look at the assets that were traded, him and Danny Green coming over, what the Spurs got. So we have seen it done. Bill Belichick talked about it. There was a reason why he didn't trade Jimmy Garoppolo to the AFC, because he didn't want to play against him. This has been going on in sports for a long time, and now you're talking about one of the iconic franchises in the Lakers. There is not a lot of people on the surface that just want to help the Lakers be better. Right. So before we even start that, forget the Pelicans, wherever David Griffin was. No one is trying to help the Pelicans. Then you throw in, oh, what about the Rich Paul? What about that LeBron mix? People aren't trying to help them build some type of empire so LeBron can get more championships. So this is the thing, though. If I'm David Griffin, I do exactly what's reported out there right now. I ain't trying to trade them to the West. I ain't trying to trade them to the Lakers, because the Lakers really have the best players. Now, the Knicks, they need another team because Most NBA executives this year believe it is a 3-player draft. And then the drop-off after that number 3 pick is drastic. So that's where the Knicks are with that 3rd pick. So they do hold that carrot right there, and they're the only team that can provide a special combination in Zion and RJ continuing on playing basketball together, which I believe can be a great NBA story. So I believe David Griffin's going to do the right thing. And ultimately, I can force the Lakers to give me more because I'm not trying to make a deal with you, and that's what I would keep projecting from a media standpoint until we get the deal done, Chris.
Yeah, and a big factor, too, will be what happens with Kawhi Leonard. If he stays in Toronto, we will then have seen 2 players who everyone thought were going to L.A. or some other team, Oklahoma City. If you can convince Paul George to stay there, and if Toronto can convince Kawhi Leonard to stay there, then other teams may be emboldened. Chicago,
Denver,
Boston,
certainly a Boston,
and I would say a Denver. Denver would say because they would think, man, we can compete for a championship immediately, and that could convince them to stay.
And I'm going to say this too: there is a reason for teams to believe that. Look, Kawhi Leonard, regardless of what he ends up doing, he is having a great experience in Toronto with his teammates.
Yes.
You guys are going deep into the playoffs. You're playing together. The fans love you. That's a whole year of recruiting that a team can do. And certainly a franchise like Boston, with all the history, with all the legends that you can bring in to help you recruit him. Yeah. Kevin Garnett, he didn't want to go to Boston.
No, he didn't.
They won a championship
he went there and he ended up loving it.
Yeah, I mean, because they wanted a super high level immediately.
He wished he had gone now earlier in his career.
Yep.
So it's going to be very interesting to see how this goes.
All right. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.